I'm going to show you how to reassemble a lens assembly on a Canon SD780 camera. I've got the parts laid out from right to left in the order that I'm going to reassemble them. Starting with our indexing sleeve, our primary rotating ring with the ring gear, our front lens carrier, our outer housing, our aperture assembly, and our back plate. So we're going to start with this inserting this indexing sleeve into our primary extender ring. And if you'll notice on this gear, on this sleeve, there's an interrupter tab right here. Be very careful of that. It's real fragile, so you don't want to put any pressure on it at all. But that has to go on in a certain way. Everything has to be radial oriented here in a certain direction. So we're going to start with this sleeve, and I'm going to index it so that this interrupter tab is off to my most clockwise direction on the gear, and you can see here there's little tabs on the sleeve, and there's insertion grooves on the primary extender ring. So we're going to line that up with that first, so that this tab is, like I said, near the counter or the clockwise most end of the ring gear. And then we're going to rotate this sleeve counterclockwise till it fits down in here against the top. Now then we want to rotate it back here till it stops, and you can see the direction, the index here now. It's near the counterclockwise most edge of the ring gear now. And that's going to fit down into our outer housing in a certain orientation. So we're going to keep everything oriented the way I took it apart. The bottom is facing towards me, and so I can look on the front of this front lens carrier, and it says Canon zoom lens on this side here. It says Canon zoom lens 3x, and that has to go off to my left looking at it from the front. So it's going to go in like this here, and this would be the top and this would be the bottom. So this indexing pin on the bottom is going to go right in the release groove right here in our assembled sleeve and primary extender ring. And so they're going to drop in just like that. And now I'm going to insert this into my outer housing. And you notice my interrupter tab is right there. Here's the interrupter slot right here. That tells it when the lens is fully, it goes through a photodiode and tells when the lens is fully retracted. So I'm going to drop that in right in this position right here. And till that fits down flush with the edge here on my outer housing. And then I'm going to insert my aperture assembly. And I know that my aperture cable has to extend out towards the bottom to go through our aperture cable slot right here. In order to get it in there, what we have to do is extend this ring down a little bit. So what we're going to do is rotate our pinion gear, which is right here, using our thumbnail or a similar plastic tool, down till we get to the point where we can see this slot here. And then we're going to take our aperture cable and insert it through our slot here. And also there's a couple little clip tabs here on the outside. We want to put our cable, our ribbon cable down through those clip tabs to hold it in place here. Now that we have our aperture cable back in place. We're going to retract our lens group here back into the housing so that we can put our back plate on. We're going to retract it almost all the way, but not quite. So what we're going to do is rotate our pinion gear back in the clockwise direction, and that'll rotate our ring gear in the counterclockwise direction and retract everything pretty much so it's flush here. But you can see if we retract it a little bit more, our front lens carrier will pop out here, so we don't want to do that. We want to get it extended out just a little bit so that it'll hold everything in place till we get our back plate on. And just insert our back plates straight down here, and try not to pinch any of the cables or anything like that, the ribbon cables. There's only one you have to really be careful of here, and that's this one on this side over here. And so what we're going to do is just kind of get these cables off to the side and position this under that cable there so that it'll clear it. And it looks like everything's kind of cleared now, so we'll push that down. Okay, now we have it down in place, and everything seems to be lined up pretty good and indexed onto the back plate here. There's tabs on the outer housing that index into the back plate, so once that seats down and everything's in place, we're going to put our screws on. And we're going to start with our front screw here, and that'll go right into this position right here, right by our gearbox. Okay, now we're going to turn it over and put our other 4 screws in the back here. We just want to get all of our screws in our back plate here. And kind of hold constant pressure on these. You don't have to screw them in too tight once you get them all the way down. We want to hold a fair amount of constant pressure so you don't strip out the heads. Okay, about the only thing we have left to do now is put our distance measuring, our distance beam in here. There's just kind of a fits in this slot right here, and then this tab on the back fits over 2 small pins here, and then there's a piece of double-sided tape on there, so that once you get it on the pins, you just push it down a little bit and it'll pretty much stay on the double-sided tape. So we're going to get this indexed in the right place here, kind of push that down onto the tape, and all we have left to do now is insert our aperture cable into our socket here, and then close the clamp down. So once we get it lined up here, we're going to insert it there about as far as we can go in there. And there's a little red line on here. I don't think you can see it in the camera lens, but when we close this tab down, that little red line will be right on the edge of the tab. Okay, it looks like everything's in place. So there you have it, the Canon SD780 lens assembly, all ready to go back in the camera. Pretty easy to put this back together. So all we have to do is put it in the camera and plug it in and hope everything works.